Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are joined by our Professional of the Year, Bruce Baker, our Chief Business Builder from Workplaces, hailing from beautiful Alberta, Edmonton to be exact, in Canada. He joins us again today. We're going to dive into some more amazing stuff. We're going to talk about most business owners. Listen to this, because I bet you heard it 1,000 times. You need to build systems in your business, but nobody really tells you what the system is and why it matters. So, yeah, these are just like corporate buzzwords. So the truth is, you say most small businesses never build them, not because owners don't want to, but because building systems feels overwhelming, expensive, complicated. And you're going to talk a little bit about this. So, by the way, we're excited that you're back today, and this is a great topic for us. And give us a little bit overview of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, you betcha. Well, thanks for having me again, Joel. Hey, everybody. So, I would say that at least 8 out of 10 times I meet with business owners and CEOs and talk about their challenges. Most of the time, I have to build systems. I have to improve systems. I have to close the gap. Anything really, it's about systems.
Yeah.
And as you correctly said, Joel, it's become a buzzword. It's become a cliche these days. Well, I have to build systems. Well, what is it? What is a system? So I wanna bring the real raw facts about what a system actually is and why people are struggling to build systems. And of course, if we don't have systems, the world doesn't turn, and your business certainly doesn't turn.
Perfect. And we're going to find out what the system really is. We're going to talk about why most businesses never build them, how to start small, fix the weakest link, and you're going to give us some benefits, 5 in particular of systems. All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Bruce, you call it all systems anemia. Explain what that looks like in a small business, please.
You betcha. So I'll start off by saying that no one really talks about this or tells you about this. The number one reason, other than an emotional decision to just stop with the business and give up, but the number one reason small businesses get stuck is burnout or a stall, right? And this is what you say I call systems anemia. Not too few clients, but not too little talent. It's a fact that everyone is duct taped together every day, right? So we've all heard it. You need systems, as we've been discussing. But like I said, what does this actually mean? And why do most business owners never build them? Right? So the systems anemia is when the business technically works, but it's weak under the hood.
Okay.
Think of a business owner who's constantly stepping in to solve problems, chasing people for answers, fixing mistakes that shouldn't happen in the first place. They're running from fire to fire. So every day feels reactive instead of proactive. And this is not just in a small business, mid-size, even large business throughout various divisions in a corporation. The same thing happens. They're working harder and harder, but they're not getting ahead. Right? There's no engine carrying the business forward. That's systems anemia.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. All right, good. I've heard it before, never knew, and I'm glad you're breaking this down. But now people also want to say, well, hey, what exactly is a system? And what's the biggest misunderstanding about what a system really is?
Right, absolutely. A system, well, to really simplify it, it's first and foremost, when people think systems, they think expansive software.
Okay.
It's not that, right? It's also not a dusty manual nobody uses. I get spoken to about, a lot of business owners talk about, I need a standard operating procedure. I need a system to run this, etc. Well, what is an SOP?
Yes.
What is, it's a lot of the times, the stuff, like I said, it's dumped on a shelf and nobody really interacts with it. Nobody works with it. So a system is just a way of doing something that works. It keeps working without you having to personally babysit it. So can you imagine going to sleep at night and thinking they're just about to doze off and think about, well, I got to remember to breathe, right? Can you imagine? Wouldn't be a very good sleep, that's for sure. So a system is like, right? A system is like a recipe. You follow the steps, you get the result, and there's no guesswork. And I think that's the big guesswork, right? And what a lot of business owners think systems are, but not really. They mistake habits or personal routines. So, like I said, it's like a recipe, but it's not a habit or a personal routine. It's a process that needs to happen. Step one, step two, step three. And you expect an outcome. So, for example, you always check your invoices at 9 a.m. That's not a system. That's you relying on memory. Or you personally approve every quote. That's not a system. That's a bottleneck. A real system is something that's written down, shared, and very important, executable by someone else, not you as the owner or as the CEO or the manager, by someone else. If the process only works because of you doing it, that's not a system, right? That's a dependency. So we want to see a system as a recipe that works without you going through the process yourself. It also allows business to continue happening, the results to continue being achieved without you sitting with levers, right? Making sure that things happen. We want to move away from that by implementing repeatable and systematic components in the business.
That. Thank you for that, as I cough a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things maybe business owners really do think that systems are, but they aren't. Can we dive into that a little further?
Yeah, and I mentioned a little bit about that earlier on, where and I probably jumped the gun there a little bit. Sorry, Jill,
It's okay, so
but
did I.
all good, all good. They think that systems are, like I said, they always check invoices at 9 a.m. or you personally approve every quote. A system is not. It's a routine, but it's not necessarily just a bunch of steps that you take as a habit, right? It's what you put in place, the pieces of the puzzle you put in place. So, when one thing happens, this is created. When
Yeah.
this is created, something else happens. But the biggest component is that if you're just going through a habit or basic routine every single day, but it's like the hamster in a wheel, right? You're just going through running as fast as you can, but you're not getting anywhere. It's like an exercise bike, right? You're really working up, but you're not really getting anywhere. Your system, as I've always said, whether it's a system or whatever you have in business, you want to produce one thing and you want to produce a result. If you don't produce the result, you don't have a business. So I want people to think about a system as, I've been
Yeah.
given a whole box of puzzle pieces,
Got it.
and I can see the picture on the box, and my responsibility is to take those little puzzle pieces, put them in place so the picture comes to fruition. That is the system. But now, in this case, in a business, that is a continual system. Every time the puzzle pieces are broken up, and every time you want those puzzle pieces to come back up and show the picture again, you want system to be repeatable and scalable, if that makes sense.
Does make sense. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for elaborating a little bit on that. So now also, um, business that's operating without systems, what's really happening? What are you seeing happening? The consequences in a sense. And I want to hear an example too.
Yeah, you betcha, you betcha. So, it's unfortunate because a couple of episodes or recordings that we did a couple of weeks ago, I spoke about one of the biggest reasons why, especially small businesses, fail, especially within their 2 to 3 years, sometimes even within a year. It's that burnout mode, entrepreneurial burnout. And they burn out, especially when they're getting the traction. They burn out because the old saying is, I have to wear so many hats. I have to wear all the hats. Yes, that is very true when it comes to a startup, but eventually they burn out, and that emotional exhaustion is something that kills the business. But really what's happening is that there are either very few systems, if any, that are in place, and the quote unquote systems that they believe that they've got in place are just not working. So without the system, every task in your business depends on you as the owner, as the leader, as the CEO, remembering, deciding, maybe stepping into whatever needs to be done. I don't know about you, but I find that pretty exhausting. And that's, like I said, that's how you burn out. You're like a it's going and it's going and it's going, but nothing is moving forward. And that's the first thing when you as an individual, feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm moving as fast as I can, but every step forward I make are 3 steps back. And it costs you time and money and eventually reputation. And what happens? You finally decide to quit, right? And that's when the business starts to erode. Um, to your second question, I worked with a contractor who had no formal process for quoting jobs, for instance, right? And this was, keep in mind that we don't just work with people to help them build a system to quote jobs, but quoting jobs was one of the big things that was causing a lot of grief and a low hanging fruit that
Mm-hmm.
we could help him get fixed. So every quote was different depending on how busy he was or what he remembered from the last job. So the results, clients get inconsistent pricing and they get annoyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting to include materials and labor. It's one thing to quote or estimate a client only to come back and say, oh man, I forgot to include this. I forgot to include that. Now I have to either go back to the client or suck it up and lose margin or lose profitability. The other one is losing jobs because quotes took too long.
Mm-hmm.
People, especially living in a world, and there's no good or wrong or right over here, but we live in a very reactive world right now. But it is the reality, and people's patience is very short. So being able to move a little quicker and being able to do things in a timely manner, you're probably going to secure far more business than taking too long by standardizing his quoting process using a
Mm-hmm.
simple checklist and template. And notice that I'm not saying investing. We didn't invest in any expensive software.
Yep.
Simple checklist and a template. We cut quoting time in half and doubled his closing rate. Right? That's the power of fixing just one tiny little system, but it was absolutely huge for his business. It creates that cascading effect.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. We love hearing, how it's working out there, what's happened in the past. And that's how we learn from our mistakes, right? And the good and the bad, all of the above.
Absolutely.
And what are some of the things would you say that business owners are, why are they avoiding to build systems, even though they kind of need that they know that they
Yeah,
need them in a sense? That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah. It's hard. Systems feel hard, and
Yeah.
this is the problem, right? And where it all starts is, whether you buy a business or whether you start a business up from scratch, um, that's the last thing on your mind. And what I mean by that is, I know I need to start up this business. I start up this business. I hire a team, maybe.
Hmm.
I get going, but it's all about sales. It's all about cash. It's all about,
Yeah.
sales, sales, cash, cash. And your first stage of business growth, it is
Yeah.
critical. I get that. The problem is that by the time they reach 12 months to, let's say, 18 months, we start to move from
Okay. Oh,
and
there you
when
go.
we move to that, what happens is that we realize that, okay, I'm growing, I'm experiencing a lot of traction, but I'm still doing everything myself. I'm not delegating enough to my guys or my crew, whatever the case may be, and I'm burning out. So suddenly, this joy about opening up this new business has become a real slogfest. So in this case, most business owners avoid systems because at this point they think it's a massive overhaul. They think it's such a huge thing to get in and do it. But you don't need a 100-page SOP or standard operating procedure. What you do need is clarity and repeatability, like I said earlier on, Joe. A system can literally start as a sticky note, right? A simple sticky note on your monitor. Step one, step two, step three.
Hmm. And also, talking about businesses, can we also maybe you could tell us a little bit about the quickest way, easiest
Mhm.
way. How do you start the process? Because to build a system seems complicated. It could
Yeah.
be, yeah, it's scary to me for someone not in the business, let alone in the business. It could be intimidating. So I think it's best to call you. And we're going to talk about 5 benefits of the systems too. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was about to show my Superman cape and everything comes with it there.
Yep.
But I'll give you another quick little example and then I'll take everyone through that. So I worked with a business, well, startup and then scaled them up. And about 5 years later, about 4 years later, struggling to build systems. And I was driving home from a client's facility one day, and I spoke with him and trying to make him understand that, this systems are required. And he came back to me and says, Bruce, it's hard. So I said, look,
Yeah.
let's take one part of the business. Tell me all the things that happen. He says, yeah, but I'm not sure I'm going to remember. It's just, I can't tell you right now. So I said, I'm going to ask you. And it was about a 45-minute drive. At
Yep.
the end of 45 minutes, Jill, step one, step two, step three, and I interviewed him and I asked him these questions. And what a fantastic response. We had a one-pager, simple system and procedure that frankly he wrote on a couple of sticky notes while, believe it or not, he was sitting in a parking lot doing this and built his system, built his procedure.
Mm-hmm.
That's how easy it is, but potent.
Wow.
Start with what's repeating itself and draining you the most. Again, start with what's repeating itself
Okay.
over and over again, but also what's draining you the most, right? If that could happen by itself, man alive, that'll be a huge game changer. Pick something you do more than twice a week that stresses you out. Is it onboarding clients, maybe some quoting, follow up on payments, whatever it may be? Write down the steps. And here's the kicker, make it as simple as you possibly can. If you had to explain that to a 10-year-old, that's how simple I want you to make it, right? Anybody else could follow it tomorrow if you showed them the system. That's your first system, just like the example I gave.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
You betcha.
Do you want to break it down a little further and talk about all the benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I wish I could articulate this even more effectively, but it's people don't realize the simplicity behind this until they actually try this out. And when they start to live it, it's quite liberating, and it never fails. The 5 benefits of a system, if we think about it, when the system kicks in, you're going to see the following. Number one, you're going to see consistency, right? There is nothing more that a system loves, or a business, which is a system, loves to see, that is consistency. If I can repeat the process and keep it going, I have consistency. If you look at any large corporation today, they're large, they're successful, they're global, multinational, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be, for one reason only, because of the first benefit of a system or systems they implement, consistency. The second is simplicity, right? Simplicity is absolutely kills complexity. We don't want complexity in the business. We as people make things overly complex. I want to encourage people. The benefit of your system is that it's simple. The third benefit is learning. Remember, it's not just you and your business. You are the teacher to others for sustainable, ongoing business.
Yep.
You want to teach people. Let them learn the system, and people really want to learn with simple, straightforward stuff. That's number 3. Number 4 is focus. If we can focus on something and keep focused on it, remember, a good system will work well over time. It'll be consistent, repeatable, simple, but businesses also outgrow systems as they grow. So being able to revise and refresh systems is absolutely critical, but a system provides that focus to you and keeps that focus going. And number 5, or the 5th benefit, probably, which is the most important thing we're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
is results. If your systems, if your customers are not happy, if you don't have enough cash, if whatever the case may be, those are the symptoms. Those are not the problems. And the problem there, because they're not producing the results you intend, what happens? That is a system breakdown. If we put consistency, simplicity, learning, focus, and results all together, they create that inertia, right? So we want that to continue. Your business starts moving forward on its own momentum instead of you pushing every inch. That's the big deal.
Wow. Got it. And excuse me for trying to breathe here.
Okay.
Like I'm trying to hit the mute button. I don't want to sneeze on camera, but it may happen, right?
All
So
good.
I want to hear some other examples of these, systemizing kicking in and how it's helping and, how it really looks in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember probably about 6 years ago, I helped a small marketing agency. It was struggling to deliver projects on time. So every client project was handled differently. No clear timelines, no standard task list. We mapped out their project flow, created a repeatable checklist, automated client updates. So within 60 days, approximately 60 days, on-time delivery went skyrocketed from 40% to around about the early 90%. Client satisfaction scores jumped, which was really cool because they weren't measuring client satisfaction, but we created baselines in the beginning and we started to see significant upticks. The owner finally took a weekend off. I call it the Mexico test. So finally took the weekend off without getting phone calls. That's the power of those 5 benefits showing up.
Got it. All right. And continue to talk a little bit about, if you can, the 3-point scorecard and business flow map. Will I get a walk?
So I use a simple framework. As you mentioned, there's the 3-point financial and operational scorecard. We check where the leaks are, and leaks typically come from money, time, and energy. And people that may remember from the last podcast, time is not the minutes. We don't manage time. We manage the actions associated with the time that we have available. That's the first tool. The second one is business flow and structure map. We lay out what's happening from first client contact to final delivery so we can see where the balls are being dropped. We don't fix everything at once. We fix the biggest pain point first, lock it in, and then we move to the next. I hope that makes sense.
Got it. Thank you. And, really, this is helping so many people. But what would you say the difference between building systems that work and over systemizing a business? Can you really go too far here?
Yeah, this one's a critical one. Over systemizing is when you create systems for the sake of doing it. And I have a client right now that is struggling with this. So you end up with rules nobody follows, steps nobody needs, documentation nobody even reads. It's that old dusty document. It makes business slower, not faster. And people get very overwhelmed within the business when there's this stuff that's there that doesn't make any sense. So building systems that work well, it's about finding friction points and solving for them. So if a system saves you time, it reduces errors, it improves client experience or frees you up, you want to keep that one, right? If it just adds complexity or bureaucracy, please, 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 as Mr. Peter Drucker once said, scrap it, abandon it, right? Every system should earn its place by making life easier or results better.
Perfect. Now, if a business owner out there listening today wants to take some action, what's the first thing they need to do and they should do to start building systems, would you say?
Well, Jill, if I'm talking to the business owner right now and I'm talking directly to them, you already work hard enough. You don't need to work harder. You need to work, well, you need your hard, right? Or smarter, definitely, but you need your work or your hard work to count for more. Systems aren't about perfection. No one's asking for the bullseye. They're about progress. You don't need to systemize everything today. You just need to fix the weakest link. Watch how that actually starts that domino effect. It's absolutely crazy.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much. Bruce
No problem.
Baker, our professional of the year. Always a pleasure having you here. And I
Thank you
think
for
that
having
rhymed.
It
Oh,
did
good.
actually,
I
but
can
it's
maybe
fine.
it's my medication. So tell me, how can we reach out to you at workplaces, sweetheart?
Absolutely. So website www.4 the numeral 4 workplaces.com. Shoot us an email at info@4workplaces.com, or always love to hear from you. Give us a call, 780-850-6957.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you back as always, Bruce. And
Thanks for
we'll
having
talk
me.
again next week. Enjoy the rest of the day, okay?
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Thank you. I will. Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.